I'm Sharon Bill. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Even for those who would say that they are not into music, I would suggest that music is everywhere and it's part of everybody's life, whether you're listening to the radio as you're driving along, or even if you're watching a movie or a TV programme. The incidental music is really, really important. Try watching a movie with no music and the plot makes no sense. We've got no clue whether it's a sinister moment or, maybe a mysterious moment or a happy romantic moment. So it's the music that really finishes off giving meaning to the movie. I guess there are those who would say, well, I don't listen to the radio, I don't really listen to music, nor do I watch TV. In actual fact, my mum's very much like that. She rarely listens to music at all. She doesn't watch TV much at all. I myself like long periods of quiet. It must be a family thing because my mum's grandma before her, she used to enjoy spending hours of quiet in her older age just sitting watching the fire crackle. So, music isn't necessarily part of people's lives in that way on a daily, regular basis, although I think that's quite unusual, really. But it is everywhere around us, and I mentioned my mum's gran used to listen to the fire crackling and just sit quiet, and that in itself is sort of a musical moment. Music's everywhere, whether it's bird song or the wind blowing in the trees. Those noises do have a musical quality to them. There's a composer, John Cage. He was a 20th century composer who wrote very strange music to listen to, and one of his compositions, 4 minutes 33 seconds, is you go to your concert hall to listen to the piece of music, and the actual music is the noise of the audience. So, for example, if a siren goes by, as that's part of the performance. If somebody has a cough or unwraps a sweetie wrapper, it's really strange, so a performer would come along, flick out the coattails, sit at the piano and do nothing. And the music was the ambient sounds around. Now, I admit that's a strange performance, but, I see what I was getting at there. But even beyond that, we all have a desire to integrate music into our lives, and special occasions are a perfect example of that. To give an atmosphere to a particular occasion or moment, and even in fact just to put a personal stamp, stamp a bit of our unique character into that moment and that special time. For example, on our wedding day when I got married, a friend of mine and her husband played for us. My husband's friend played pipe organ and she played flute, and during the signing of the register they played the Mozart Romance, the second movement from the Eine kleine Nacht music. That made a really beautiful moment, and actually the arrangement on pipe organ and flute, it was a really special, beautiful arrangement. It was quite a characteristic sort of voicing of that little movement. On the way out, on the processional march out, the exit march, recessional, I can't think what that's called now, we had the War March of the Priests by Felix Mendelssohn. My friend played that on the pipe organ. That was magnificent. I'm not quite sure what that said about our wedding. If we sort of leaving and the very second we're married, we're on a war march. That doesn't sound so promising, but we've it's obviously set the scene. We've been married for over 25 years, so I guess it was a good choice. But even then, you might say, well, fair enough. I'm really not into music myself. You're into music, so you chose those things. But I myself am not into music. But I would say that everybody chooses a song or, as a special tune or something. Even my dad. Sadly, my dad died recently. He died a few weeks ago. He wasn't poorly in his final illness for too long, so he didn't suffer too much, which was a relief. And he'd actually chosen his own funeral music, and he really is not into music at all. And he chose particularly for one of the hymns. He wanted a hymn, I Lift My Eyes to the Quiet Hills. It was quite funny actually on reflection, because this is a hymn that he won't have sung since sometime in the 1970s. And it was so remote, this song that he'd chosen as a hymn, that the organist didn't have the music. It was completely off the repertoire. It's funny how certain music falls in and out of favour, isn't it? And so there was no organ music for the service, and so we had to sing along at last minute in a frenzy to a clip that we found online. And nobody knew the hymn at all. Even, bizarrely, the vicar who was conducting the service, who was the vicar at the time in the 70s, who must have sung it back then from when my dad knew it. And so even though he hadn't sung that song, that hymn, since the 70s, I'm sure it can't have been any later than that. It's obviously really resonated with him, and that's what stuck with him, and that's what he wanted to express this time at the end of his life. And you know, it was obviously a really important song to him, so even though he isn't into music at all, that was a really special moment to him. And so when people suggest that they are not into music, music's not important, it's not practical, it's not part of their lives, I just suggest that you try and imagine a world where there is no music at all. So no advert jingles, no music to accompany the speech in the films and the TV programmes that you're watching. Any special occasion, you like first dance or a party or anything, no music at all, just plain old speech and text. And I would suggest that for any of us who are blessed with hearing, that is not likely. And I don't think that you would actually live up to that claim that you're not into music. It's part of all of our lives. It's around us everywhere. And so I think this sort of justifies my point that music is really, really important, even if it's only in an incidental accompanying sense. So I hope that you found that interesting. I'd love to hear any of your favourite songs or special music to you. If you want to just pop it in the comments, that'd be great. I'd love to hear about that. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.